Come along, let's find out about Writing on Stone Provincial Park. Writing on Stone here in southern Alberta is classified as a World Heritage Site. We stayed in the provincial campground. Just listen to that. That's that prairie dove. I love the sound of those birds. The park has a modern visitor center, nice museum, and several signs throughout the park. The interpretive signs, of course, were just full of information. Some trails were marked with trails and steps, like these here, but others were more primitive, particularly as you got amongst the rocks and hoodoos. The visitor center had a couple of snake skins on the counter. The one on the right is a bull snake, one of the biggest in North America. They can grow as long as 2.5 meters long. That other one, though, is the dangerous one, the rattlesnake, over on the left there. And they do have rattlesnakes here. Did you see those signs when we drove into the park? It is springtime here, and the snakes like to lie on the warm roads. Also, they are migrating. They migrate from here up to 30 or 40 kilometers north over the summer, and they return here in the fall. So, hey, what's the advice? Wear your boots, not your sandals, when you walk amongst the rocks, and keep your eyes in front of you on the path ahead. Now, here is the fact. Relax. There has not been a tourist bitten by a rattlesnake in this park in well over 10 years. So, hey, what can I say? Relax and enjoy your walk through the rocks. Or I could say somebody is long, long overdue to get bit by a rattlesnake. Hey, enjoy living on the wild side. This is fairly level prairie land, but there's a river that runs through it called the Milk River. The Milk River here starts up in just across the border in the United States and flows into Canada and eventually crosses the border south and is part of the Missouri-Mississippi water system that flows into the Gulf of Mexico. The river flows across the Canada-U.S. border. The agreement is that Canada ranchers can use only 25% of the water in the river. The water is drying up, and the Americans demand more water that is not there. So water negotiations between the two countries continues to take on an increased importance. The water flow is still strong in early summer, and you can see footprints along the wet banks where the water has receded. Tourists like to canoe and kayak on the small river, but often you can wade across the river with no problem. One of the things that we did while we're at Writing on Stone here, we caught a bus and took it into the backcountry to see some of the ancient writing on stone. Over the centuries, we saw how the wind and water had carved out the soft sandstone along the river. Some of the formations were unbelievable. We eventually found several sightings of writing on the rocks. Our park guide was knowledgeable and gave us a lot of information. Here is some of the ancient writing, which our guide said were petroglyphs. Petroglyphs were these sketches on rocks. Archaeologists say that there are two kinds of rock art. One are the petroglyphs that we just saw an example of. The other type of rock art is called pictographs. Now, pictoglyphs that we just saw are scratches or engravings etched onto stone. They may be art, they might communicate a message, they can tell a story, they can give information. Archaeologists call them an ancient library. Now, in contrast to pictoglyphs are pictographs, and pictographs are also found on rocks made by ancient people, but they are paintings on a rock cliff. And that painting is created with a mineral called red ochre mixed with animal fat. And pictographs are often found in protected areas where the color of the art has not been washed away over the centuries, like, for example, in caves or large rock overhangs. Again, we only saw pictoglyphs like here. We saw no painting or pictographs like you see in this book here. Painting or pictographs need ochre, which is ancient people would have had to have traded with people, for example, to the west in Kootenay National Park today, where ochre is found at the north end of this park near the Trans-Canada Highway. Ochre is a natural clay earth pigment and can be used as a paint or dye on rocks, and it ranges in color from yellow to orange to red and brown. Here are more pictoglyphs. Looks like a deer or bison, but notice the bullet holes. Someone had target practice at this sketch at one time. Today, the area is tightly monitored, and defacing the artifacts is subject to major penalties. This pictoglyph tells of a major battle in the area. Although this was primarily Blackfoot country, other groups occasionally passed through, sometimes resulting in conflict. Notice that this battle occurred in more recent times when people had both guns and horses. The museum had several photos of people in the early days. This was not an area of permanent settlement, but more of a place where people came temporarily to hunt, regroup, and occasionally avoid the wind and harshness of winter in the protection of trees and gullies along the river. It was also important to have a ready source of firewood during the winter months. The sandstone cliffs provided a natural canvas for artwork. People buried their dead according to Blackfoot custom of burying corpses above the ground to make travel to the afterworld easier. And often a favorite horse or two was killed and buried with its owner. The museum had both original faceless Blackfoot dolls and also dolls of early ranchers who had faces in their dolls. Faceless dolls enabled children to imagine feelings the dolls might have. For example, a faceless doll could be imagined to be happy, sad, perplexed, or a variety of emotions, whatever the child might want to imagine what her doll might be feeling. Blackfoot dolls were made of leather and horsehair. The dolls had no facial features because the Blackfoot did not want to capture a spirit in the doll. The Milk River is more than an early Indian story. Horses and guns first appeared in rock art by the early 1700s. Settlers and ranchers came by World War I, sketching their own records on the sandstone cliffs. sometimes defacing earlier sketches in order to make room to tell their own story. Look at this piece of rock art. It looks like a wagon, and this one looks like it might even be an automobile. What about a tourist today who carves his initials or story on the cliff? What is historical rock art, and which makes it modern graffiti? They all have a story to tell. The park decided to accept and keep those rock drawings before the area was declared a park in 1957. So this rock art includes works by prehistoric Blackfoot people, the Northwest Mounted Police who were here, and the ranchers and settlers who built up the area into a modern time. Anything since the park opened in 1957 is considered to be contemporary graffiti and is not accepted. There is another story associated with the park, and that is the story of American guns and liquor trying to illegally cross the border and creating chaos and disarray with long established Indian culture. Across the valley, you can see the reconstructed barracks of the Northwest Mounted Police outpost at Police Coulee. The white police barracks are reconstructed buildings of the originals that were destroyed by fire. Later in the season, when the water is lower, park guides will offer you a tour where you can wade across the low river and visit the barracks. With the American border only 5 kilometers away, illegal booze and guns found the narrow valley or coulee here at police barracks. This sketch map shows the Whoop Up Trail that brought booze from its source in Fort Benton, Montana. It followed the yellow line and came over to where the small town of Shelby is at today on Interstate 15. And then it swung north with the booze, and they followed Highway 4 in Alberta to just south of Lethbridge, which was the location along the Old Man River of Fort Whoop-Up. Where we're at Riding on Stone Provincial Park, it was a little bit off of the main booze and gun run. But they followed the Marias River, which was easier going in that valley. If they had gone a whole lot more, they had to go around the Sweetgrass Hills, which was an elevation area. So again, Riding on Stone Provincial Park, although it had some illegal booze and guns coming up in those days, and they had a police barracks there that patrolled the area, the main route of the Whoop-Up Trail was this yellow line from Fort Benton over to Interstate 15 and Highway 4 and on to Fort Whoop-Up, an abandoned community now along the river south of Lethbridge. Before the post was established here, a dozen years earlier, the first police post was established at Fort Walsh in the Saskatchewan. The police still had to patrol these outlying border areas in an effort to stop the continual flow of destructive rot-gut whiskey and illegal guns coming from the U.S. The same struggle, by the way, continues today. The only difference is that the whiskey has been replaced by murderous drugs. Today, Canada still struggles to offset illegal American liquor, tobacco, drugs, and guns that continually attempt to cross the border into Canada from U.S. sources. Well, there you have a little bit of writing on stone provincial park in southern Alberta. It's worthwhile for a visit. And if you want more videos, hit the subscribe button. That'll tell you when we're coming back and putting more videos of our travels on the internet. Until then, we'll see you down the trail. This is I Go Travel with Don Barnett. If you want to find more of my videos, just Google, like it says there, my name, Don Barnett 5090. And then click on my name, hit the word playlists, and scroll down. Each playlist contains several travel videos.